Can you recall the last time you had a sunburn? If you can, it should be your last.
May is Melanoma Awareness Month, and prevention, of course, is the key. 8 on your side, Stacey Shabel here now. And you have some myth-busting tips.
I'm doing some myth-busting. That's because you probably think you know everything there is to know about sunscreen, because I did too. But right now, we're going to look at a few of the sunscreen myths that surprised me the most. We live in the Sunshine State, which is both wonderful and dangerous at the same time.
You don't know what tomorrow holds.
Jane Younger of Tampa admits when she was younger, she made a lot of mistakes when it came to not protecting her skin.
Oh my. Let's see, late in the sunshine nonstop. We're talking baby oil iodine. We're talking in a lake swimming without any sunblock.
Fast forward to 10 years ago when she saw an odd-looking spot on her arm.
It was a freckle that had changed. It started to become bubbly. It just didn't look right.
Turns out it was melanoma. When it comes to melanoma, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Over 9,000 people die per year from melanoma.
Physician's assistant Heather Scull works at Academic Alliance in Dermatology in Tampa. And I asked her to do some sunscreen myth-busting with me. Starting with whether it's true you do most of your sun damage when you're a kid. That's only partially true.
For the age of 19, with any sunburn anyone had, it was 1.6 times more chances of having a melanoma.
Next, you shouldn't use sunscreen on babies under the age of 6 months. That's true.
So you want to seek shade, cover with long clothing, hats, unless there is no other option.
You don't really need to use sunscreen in the winter. That is not true.
Because whether it's a cloudy or a sunny day, you're not sure what your day might hold.
And what about overcast days? Again, as Skull just mentioned, you still need sunscreen. That is true.
But that's when about 40% of the UV radiation that's coming through, that's when people are getting sunburns.
And what about this one? People with darker skin don't need to wear sunscreen. That is not true.
While you may have darker skin, and that does serve as a little bit of an SPF, you still can get melanoma and other skin cancers.
And reapplying sunscreen when you're out in the sun is extremely important. That is true. But how often?
If we're swimming, then right after, or after sweating activities, but usually typically every 1 to 2 hours.
And how about the myth about SPF levels, that after a 30 SPF, it really doesn't matter? That is not true.
But it's important to have a minimum SPF 30, which will block out about 97% of the UVB rays.
Whether genetically predisposed to skin cancer or not, protecting your skin can never be a bad thing.
You can still go to the beach. You can still enjoy the sunshine, but be smart about it.
And here are some 8 on your side tips to keep in mind when it comes to sunscreen. Read the ingredients. Look for the words broad spectrum. That means it blocks both kinds of damaging rays, UVA and UVB. Skull also recommends a physical, not just chemical, sunblock, which means sunscreen containing zinc and titanium dioxide. Are you smarter now?
Definitely. I mean, I learned a lot there. I knew that you still had to wear it in the winter.
Right.
But what's always confusing for a lot of people, I think, you know, my moisturizer has an SPF to it. But if you're one of those people who wears a moisturizer and then you want to put sunscreen on, what's the right order to do that in?
Always sunscreen first, according to Heather Scull. But she said if your moisturizer has some sunscreen, it's usually only about 15 SPF. So she recommends you still use a 50 SPF. Before you put on your moisturizer or your makeup, and to wait a couple minutes after you put on the sunscreen before you put on the rest.
Keith's the poster child for it. He takes really good care of his face because you have had some issues before.
Well, I've been using baby oil for years. I don't know if that's...
Now you know.
Bad.
Sunscreen before your makeup, Keith.
Remember that back in the day? Maybe slather outside cooking like a baked turkey.
No,
and then you pay for
anymore.
it later on.
Yeah,
all right. Well,
that's true.
That's interesting stuff right there. Thank you for that, Stacey. And a reminder, we have more on sun damage, sunscreens, and skin protection on WFLA.com and our social media pages, including Stacey's list of the 8 top sunscreens on the market today.